Welcome back, my dearest brothers and sisters in Islam. MashaAllah, our guest has just arrived. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. My dear brothers and sisters, we are very honored to have our beloved Ustad, MashaAllah. Muhammad Hijab is the philosopher of religion, MashaAllah, and the co-founder of Sapiens Institute, MashaAllah. Ahlan wa sahlan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very good, MashaAllah, brother. We are welcome to Cape Town, South Africa. Is this your first time here?
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you so much for the welcome.
MashaAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and thank you for joining us today, Ustad Muhammad Hijab. As a philosopher of religion, how would you describe your approach to studying religion, and what unique perspective do you think that philosophy brings to the field?
Well, I mean, you got to first define what philosophy is, and many people see it as actually one of the key ways to understand how to think in the first place, how to think, how to rationalize, how to reason. And as such, every one of us in their own special way is a philosopher, because everyone's thinking, everyone's rationalizing, and everyone's creating judgments. And so obviously the Quran is deplete with verses, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, do you not understand, do you not think, أَفَلَا تَفَكَّرُونَ, and so on. So it would seem to me like a natural thing for a Muslim to do, to think and to philosophize in these ways.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, Barakallahu feek. MashaAllah, Ustad Muhammad Hijab, your work often engage with different philosophy in religion traditions. How do these different traditions shape your understanding of religion and spirituality?
Well, I mean, the thing is, all schools of thought, Islamic cradles of thought, have put al-aql, or rationality, at the fore of the discussion. Even what is seen to be the literalistic schools of thought, the scripturalistic schools of thought, like the Hanabila or the Athari or the Salafi, even. Yes. Like, for example, Ibn Taymiyyah has a kitab, or a book, who's a literalist, let's say, what is it, an apparentist or someone from the Hanbali school of thought, called Dar'u Ta'arud al-Aql wal-Naql. His whole enterprise was to show that there wasn't a contradiction between rationality and revelation. Of course, we have a lot of people in the religion of Islam who do the same thing. The point is that rationality is a key part of the religion of Islam, and if a true religion is going to be from God, it wouldn't be at odds with rationality. It wouldn't be at odds with what is logical, what is coherent. I mean, if we as Muslims speak to Christians, for example, and we try to bring them to the religion of Islam, we would show them that the Trinity is logically incoherent. We would show them that it's impossible for a man to be God. And this is a logical type of argumentation. The same thing if we're speaking to an atheist. If we were to show them that there is a God, we would show them the logical impossibility of there being something from nothing, for example. So were they created from nothing, or were they themselves the creators of themselves? These are all rational and logical arguments.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair for the beautiful explanation. My brothers and sisters in Islam, we'll go for a short break, inshaAllah ta'ala. And when we come back, inshaAllah, we'll continue with our conversation with our honorable guest, MashaAllah, Muhammad Hijab. Barakallahu feekum.
Can I play the theme up? Station ID.
homosexual rights, for example. And of course, these are all false types of argumentation, which are based upon false premises, false assumptions. For example, the idea that a human being should do whatever they want so long as they don't harm anyone else, otherwise referred to as the harm principle. This is a philosophical principle which is put down by some liberal thinkers in the West, like John Stuart Mill, Jeremy Bentham, and others. The problem with this principle, of course, is that it's unprovable. You cannot prove that this is how we should base morality. That you can do whatever you want so long as you don't harm anybody else. The other problem with it is actually it's if you say that, then you should allow incest rights. You should allow brother and sister to have sex with each other so long as they're using contraception, because they're not harming anyone else. I mean, you should allow a lot of other things that you're not allowing currently. I mean, you should allow the following. You should allow a man to take pictures of his own child and sexually please himself with those pictures without harming that child. According to the harm principle, that should be legitimate, actually. Putting it another way, so if you're saying you can do whatever you want so long as you don't harm anyone else, what's the problem with taking a picture of your own child, let's say a 1-year-old child or a 6-month-old child, and going and pleasing yourself sexually with those pictures? I mean, you're not harming the child. Effectively, you're doing whatever you want to do. On liberalism, such a thing should be legal. But of course, in most countries, it is illegal to do these things, and it's seen as immoral by all standards. So when you consider the assumptions of these philosophies, and you take the logical entailments of these philosophies, you realize that actually they are morally bankrupt philosophies. And today they're telling us that this is okay, and tomorrow they may be telling us that brother and sister could actually have sex with each other and do these kind of things, so long as there's consent and so long as they're not harming anyone else. Or the other example that I gave, and that's the trajectory that the Muslim community could go on if it doesn't fight back intellectually.
Subhanallah, mashallah. Beautiful, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Mashallah, Ustad Muhammad Hijab. Can you talk about some of the misconception people generally have about Islam, and how you work at your own way, and at the Sapiens Institute aim to address this misconception?
A lot of the misconceptions that many of you would have heard of about Islam relate to the punitive laws, the hudud of Islam. Well, anyone will know that, if you're a Muslim, you'd be asked, why is it that Islam allows, ridda laws, or why does it allow cutting the hand of the thief, for example, or why does it allow, or doesn't allow homosexuality? Why doesn't it allow this? All these kinds of questions, which are related to morality. Now, morality is about what is right and what is wrong. That's what, if you define morality, effectively, that's what morality means. Effectively, morality is, this is right and this is wrong. The overarching question that we want our students and our followers to ask themselves is, who gets to decide what is right and what is wrong? And on what basis do they make this decision that this is right and this is wrong? For example, we the Muslims say that actually what is right and what is wrong goes back to Allah, because He has a totality of knowledge. He is Al-Alim, for example. He is Al-Hakim, which means that not only is He knowledgeable, but He is able to give you the most appropriate and applicable law for every single context. Because hikmah, or divine wisdom, is wada'u shay' fi makanihi sahih, or putting something in its rightful place. So God is not only knowledgeable, but He is wise. So the ipso facto, we would say that everything in the Quran and Sunnah is also wise, is also perfect. Just like someone, if you go to a doctor, and the doctor does a diagnostic of that person, says, look, this person, you might have type 2 diabetes, or you might have these problems, and do an MRI scan or whatever. And then afterwards I say, look, you have to take these tablets, or you have to do this course, you have to do this physiotherapy, or you have to do this surgery. You have cancer, you have to do surgery. We will intuitively, as human beings, maybe rely on the testimony of the doctor because we think the doctor is more knowledgeable than us. We're saying in Islam it's the same kind of idea, but because God is all knowledgeable and has every single piece of knowledge that can be attained, and that will be attained, and that has been attained. Therefore, we would say it's actually more the case that one should, in fact, follow the laws and guidelines of God.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, may Allah bless you. As the philosopher of religion, what are some common themes or questions that you think all religions seek to address?
Well, I mean, religions, unlike, say, for example, scientific inquiry and other things, mathematics or whatever, they seek to address the question of why are we here? Why are we here? And the question of why cannot be, by the way, it cannot be assessed by science anyway.
Yes.
Science is a third-person operation which asks the question of how. Kaif. It doesn't ask the question of limada, why. And science cannot ask that question, why, because it's a third-person enterprise. So religion and philosophy, both of them, they're actually dealing with the question of what you call existential question, the ultimate questions of life. So the question of why am I here? What am I doing here? Where am I going? Where did I come from? All these questions are questions that religions aim to answer. And of course, you have dispute among religions, discord among religious people, which religion is true, which religion is false. And that's where the debates come in. And we say, okay, well, actually, let's look at all the religions and see which one makes more sense. The concept of God makes more sense. Where the prophethoods, miracles, and evidences, who makes more sense in that regard. Of course, we would say as Muslims, Islam makes more sense.
Inshallah, barakallahu feek, alhamdulillah. Lastly, Ustad Muhammad, what is your advice for our listeners and all the Muslims, in during this time, of all this, issues and such, there's debates and so on, like it's happening now in the UK, as you mentioned, few of them. What is a great advice you can give to the listeners and to each and every Muslim?
People have to think about ideologies and afkar and thinking processes and these kind of things, like diseases. They have to think of them in exactly the same way. And if there are diseases which are actually not just but contagious diseases like COVID, like you can be infected with these different ideologies and different diseases. So what would you do? I mean, obviously there's a whole discussion about the COVID vaccine. I'm not going to go into that.
Yes.
But you'd want to inoculate yourself. Say if you have a perfect vaccine with no side effects, you'd want to inoculate yourself. You'd want to vaccinate yourself against those diseases. And what we say is that there's two things that need to happen. You need to have a very strong connection, spiritual connection with the Quran, with the Sunnah and with the Seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But in addition to that, what the Sapiens Institute, what we try and do, what I've tried to do in my own channel, Muhammad Hijab channel online, what I'm here to do in South Africa, is to inoculate people effectively from the pernicious and malignant ideologies which can destroy someone's faith and put someone in a state of existential angst and crisis. And so the way to do that is to understand how these diseases work or how these ideologies work, and then to try and fight against them.
MashaAllah, barakallahu feek. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we'll go for a short break, inshallah. When we come back, we'll continue. Barakallahu feekum.
Are we done?
والله شيخ احسنت خلاص بارك الله فيك. We done يا شيخ.
If you're done, yeah?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam, how are you, Mahmoud? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Nice to see you, mashallah.
Good.
You're right.
Nice to meet you.
You too, my friend.
Shukran for coming.
Thanks so much.
شيخ ممكن ناخذ صورة معك؟
طبعا.
This
ما
August
شاء الله
on
الله
my
يبارك
inner
فيك
journey to
حبيبي
inshallah. Join
شرفتنا
me on Wednesday, the 9th of August at
شيخ وليد النور ما شاء الله
CTICC, where I will teach two of my
يعطيك
prime
العافية يا شيخ
courses.
تشرفت بك ان شاء الله
جزاك الله خير.
الله يسعدك وربنا يبارك فيك ان شاء الله
وفيك ان شاء الله.
At 3
Come again,
I'll
sorry.
be teaching the breaking dawn on finding joy.
Do you want to be in the pic as well?
These
Do you want to sit down?
interactive
Oh, okay.
Or do you want to sit down?
inshallah.
No, that's not
Tickets
fine.
are available
That's the shift
on
one.
Must I stand on the chair?
No, I'll sit down.
I thought the chair was supposed
Okay,
to stand
let
on.
me see. We've got news at 4 o'clock. So we can- okay.
Maybe go.